We've got an email from one of the Cult of Cornette listeners before we talk about our program schedule next week and the special stuff. But it's from Grant, who says, "Hey, Jim, I've been a fan of you, your rantings," I'm sure he meant ratings, "and all of your podcasts, books, whatever, for a long, long time. This week, my grandfather passed away at the age of 85, and he was a lifelong wrestling fan. We're from southeastern Illinois, and he grew up with Dick the Bruiser, and living about an hour from Evansville, he was well-versed with Memphis wrestling. When Jerry Lawler visited town at a small independent show about 10 years ago, my grandfather finally got to meet him and carried a picture of the two of them in his wallet until the day he died. He believed wrestling was real until the very end, and even though I trained with professional wrestlers and to be a wrestler, I never had the heart to tell him that it was a work. I think he and I are both better off that I protected the business. Wrestling was something we could watch together, and he never missed a single episode of WCW Saturday Night, but would watch anything that took place inside the squared circle. He watched wrestling until the end, and while the official cause of death is old age, I firmly believe that WWE programming got so bad that it finally killed him. My grandparents hated your sissy guts, but I'd like to thank you for being the lunatic uncle of the professional wrestling community and everything you've done." Thank you, Grant. And you know, he could have had a worse favorite, your grandfather, than Dick the Bruiser, right? At least you could believe in a guy like that. No wonder he believed in wrestling. Bruiser believed he was Bruiser, right?
Very sorry for your loss, Grant. And man, can you imagine if the Bruiser had gotten his hand on your sissy guts?
Oh, God, boy, the first time, see, here's the thing. The first wrestler I saw, the first main event guy was Dick the Bruiser, right? On Bruiser's TV show that I found first before the one here in Louisville. And that's where I saw Bobby Heenan. And I met him a number of times. We went to the Expo Center when I was 15, and I asked him, can I take a picture? And he stood there. And then a couple times when I was an official photographer, he came to Louisville. I got some pictures with his WWA belt and everything, but there was never a conversation. It was like, "Excuse me, Bruiser, can I get a picture for the magazine?" So finally, I get in the business in, the fall of 82. And that's where Bruiser's territory was about done at that point. He still had Spike Huber and Steve Regal, the son-in-laws of he and Wilbur. They were the tag team champions. Steve Regal was a tremendous fucking worker. We've had him on the program. We've talked about that. But, he was kind of staying home out of loyalty to his father-in-law. And anyway, Bruiser comes to Jerry Jarrett and makes a deal to put the Memphis show on in Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and, his markets, and use Memphis talent. And, of course, it ended the way it always ends, because he meant use Memphis talent, except I've still got to be in all the main events. And Jarrett's response to that was, "The reason why you called me to save your dying territory was because you're still in all the main events." So anyway, it only lasted about 2 tours, and then Bruiser took it back. But on the first one, it was Thanksgiving weekend, actually Thanksgiving night and the Friday the next day of 1982. And only the Heat crew was going to get sent to Indianapolis to work the Tyndall Armory on Thanksgiving. So it was me and Troy Graham and Rick McGraw, who were the New York Dolls at that point. And Kamala, they sent poor Kamala up there. And a few other guys. I'm sure Bobby Fulton was on the card, while the main guys were still in the territory and being able to be home on Thanksgiving. And the main event in Indianapolis at this old Tyndall Armory, where they used to run back in the 50s and 60s before, and in between periods where Indianapolis was hot and selling out the big buildings. And it's this old building, and they've got that steam heat, so it's fucking 150 degrees in the locker rooms, and I'm getting a cold because it's fucking freezing outside and horrible weather. And I managed the New York Dolls against Regal and Huber, I believe it was, for the WWA Tag Team title. And then they said, "Well, we sent Kamala, but we didn't bring a Friday. Can you go out and take Kamala's?" He had the big African tribal mask and the spear and all of the, the grass skirt and all of. She was still doing the fucking full gimmick back then, right? So I said, "Okay, I'll go out and, and take it." And he's working against Bruiser. Well, I'm not even supposed to stay at ringside. I'm just supposed to go get the shit and carry it back. So I'm down on my knees in front of Kamala. Imagine that picture. And I'm assembling all his stuff that he's taken off and everything. And I'm fucking greener than a pepper tree. So I don't even think to look over my shoulder. I ain't got my glasses on. So I saw Bruiser when I got in the ring on the other side of the ring, but I didn't see the look on his face. He apparently wasn't real happy because the fucking house was dreary on Thanksgiving night. And he was there himself, even though he lived in Indianapolis. He still didn't necessarily want to be right there. And as I stand up and I've got a fucking armload of goddamn Kamala shit, Bruiser has walked up to tell Kamala, jump me before the bell. But when I stand up, he literally says that, jump me before the bell, right over my fucking shoulder. And I turn around and I'm staring face to face with Dick the fucking Bruiser. And I almost fucking pissed myself. And immediately I fucking bail out of there and Kamala jumps him before the bell and I fucked off. But Bruiser still at that point scared the shit out of me because I'd always known Bruiser as Bruiser, not as one of the boys. Bruiser. Like to hear it? Here it goes.
You know what? No one knows where he got the name Dick because a lot of people thought his real name was Richard Afflis. It's not. It's William Afflis. No one knows where he actually got the nickname Dick the Bruiser, because a lot of people thought it was short for Richard. That's why so many people think his real name is Richard.
Maybe it could have been because he was a big dick.
It could be.
I hate to taint the memory of the Bruiser. He was absolutely legitimate, but Bobby Heenan and several other people have told me he could be quite a fucking dick. So there you go.
Did Heenan hate him?
He wasn't warm on him, even 20 years later. You know, that's why he left to begin with, Heenan, and called Vern, because he had been working for Bruiser from the start of his Bruiser started him in 1965. And it wasn't until 1974 that Bobby actually left. I mean, he made shots in the AWA and because Chicago, because they worked together with Vern, but he was working for Bruiser until the big, wrestling war was settled with the Sheik, and Heenan actually managed Sheik against Bruiser at Market Square Arena, and they fucking sold out. And Bruiser gave Bobby, I think, like $600. And he was just so crestfallen. He said, well, fuck it. That's when he called Vern and made the move and never... He went back, I think, a time or two for a show or two, but he never went back to work for Bruiser after that. Plus, he had made Bobby do some horrible fucking things when he was just a ring boy and a gopher. I won't even... To protect Bobby's memory, I won't tell him some of the stories that he told me personally about things he used to do for Bruiser, or Bruiser would make him do. Not sexually. Fuck. You never know when people will fucking come up with that, but just demeaning, treating you like you fucking the guy that runs the Ferris wheel at the county fair kind of shit.